Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Jeremy Adrian here. Welcome back to the channel and to another World of Warcraft Community Roundtable discussion. Today's one's going to be pretty interesting because the pre-patch for Battle for Azeroth has already hit, so 8.0 is live, and as usual, I've got guests to talk to about a lot of the stuff out in 8.0. I mean, we haven't seen a whole lot, but there's still some stuff to talk about in addition to just WoW in general, following up from the last roundtable discussion. So let's get straight into it. First of all, we are bringing back a guest that was on the last one. We've got Arv. Hello, Arv. How you doing, man?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Going good. Our second guest is new to the World of Warcraft roundtable discussion. Please say hello to Kat. Hello, Kat.
Hey everybody.
So we will zoom in on Kat a little bit and, you know, ask her some questions just to find out her involvement in WoW and all that good stuff. So, Kat, tell us, how long have you been playing WoW for? How did you get into World of Warcraft? All that good stuff.
So I got into World of Warcraft because of my husband around MOP. So right at the end of Cataclysm, I leveled a Paladin with him because he wanted me to get into WoW and play an MMO with him. So I played a few months of Mists of Pandaria and quit, and then I ended up coming back again for Warlords of Draenor. Quit again after like 3 months. And then I came back for Legion, and I played the entirety of Legion because it was such a great expansion, and I finally had a lot of fun with it. So I've been playing it pretty hardcore for well over a year now.
Awesome. And what's your main character's name, and what server do you play on?
My main character for Legion was at Hunter, but I'm switching to Druid. I do want to play a Feral for BFA, so my main's going to be a Cat Scratcher, and I'm on Storm Rage Alliance. Awesome.
So there's a couple of things that Kat mentioned there, like for new players watching this, you know, MOP is the Mists of Pandaria expansion 2012, and Draenor is, of course, the Warlords of Draenor that came out in 2014. Now, that's interesting that you mentioned that, Kat, because you've come and gone from these, you know, expansions. So just a general question, like, out of all those three, which was, you know, in your opinion, your favorite expansion based on a whole different reason? From the raiding perspective, which expansion had the better raid cluster, and the questing experience?
I think the questing experience itself was fantastic for Legion. It was really hard to feel immersed, in my opinion. I did play the original Warcraft RTS game, so I'm very familiar with the lore of World of Warcraft, so that wasn't really a barrier to entry for me. I guess initially the reasons it was really hard for me to enjoy the game had a lot to do with the server I was on at the time and the people I was playing with. We were playing with some real life friends in a very, very small server where it was predominantly Horde, very small population of Alliance, and it was also a PvP server. So it's like, I'm playing this game and I want to enjoy it, but everywhere I go I'm getting ganked and I don't stand a chance, and there's no one here, it feels dead. And so pretty much any game you play where that's your experience, it's kind of hard to enjoy it and get into it. So my reasons for I guess for not being able to play it for longer than a few months had a lot to do with that. But for Legion, I put my foot down and I told my husband, I was like, if I'm playing WoW for a third time, we're transferring. And it's going to be a PvE server, and I want to join a raiding guild that we can like enjoy the people that we play with. You know, people who are kind of casual but want to do the hardcore content,
right,
so that it's not elitist and we can have a good time. So once we did that, and alongside with the major improvements they did to the questing system and really the immersion of the story, they added a lot more cinematics and stuff in Legion, which made it a lot more enjoyable and faster paced as well to get to 110.
Awesome. Yeah, and speaking about, you know, all this, the end game, the rating stuff, we'll get to that in a little bit. We'll pick both these guys' brains about that moving forward. And you mentioned cinematics there. I just want to add in here that over the past week or so, and we'll get to this in the next point too, you know, I actually watched all the in-game cinematics for WoW since Vanilla until the end of Legion, and that was like a 4-hour movie. Somebody made it and put it up on YouTube, I think, and I sat down and watched that one night, and I would recommend watching that for players who are kind of just getting started, and even though it may spoil some of the ending for you, there's a lot of good stuff in those cinematics that kind of explains a lot of things, especially if you have some background knowledge from reading the novels or playing the RTS games. It's really good stuff. We'll get into that later on. Anything else you want to add, Kat, about your experiences in WoW?
Predominantly, the content that I have been doing has been Mythic raiding. I don't do a whole lot in WoW. I don't do PvP. I don't do any of the casual content like the festivals. So I've pretty much only been doing raiding and the Mythic Plus. That I was very much into that. That was a fantastic addition to Legion as well.
Awesome. All right, we'll pick your brains on that later on in the video, and we'll move on to the next part. Alright, so now we move on into our discussion in earnest. Before that, we're going to ask our guests, what have we been doing in WoW in the past week, and myself included. You guys might have seen my video about me getting my Rat Pally up to 110 and getting ready for BFA and the 8.0 patch. So let's start with Arv. What have you been up to in World of Warcraft in the past week or so?
I've been trying to sell all my Legion mats. Usually at the end of an expansion, there's like a spike in any of the materials, any of the consumables, like flasks and food and ore and herbs, etc., etc. Because you're not really going to be using that in the next expansion, and their value and worth go, pretty much down. So yeah, I've been busy doing that, and since 8.0 launched, just getting used to the changes. There was a stat squish where our item levels and our eye levels in general, got bumped down by quite a lot, and since this spoilers, with the artifacts, they got retired, so their artifact traits that we were using this whole expansion got pretty much included into our characters, either via talents or via what's it called? What are those other things that we have other than talents? Oh, skills. Those things that we press, with the buttons and stuff. So I was like, wow. So yeah, that's what I've been up to.
A quick fire for you there. So you're selling all your mats and stuff. Which profession makes the most money for new players?
Oh, that's tough. That's tough. Pretty much any of the gathered mats, like skins, herbs, and ores, sell really well, more than what they're used to make out of. Now it's harder to let's say you have an herb that's used to make a flask. It's tough because a lot of people have a ton of herbs already saved up, and then they put their flasks up on the auction house. So there's a lot of people that have the flasks, whereas the people that actually just put the herbs on the auction house, those will sell better. At least on my server. It's very server dependent as well.
Gotcha. What about you, Kat? What have you been up to in World of Warcraft?
I've been logging into all of my alts and getting free legendaries for my druids.
Ooh, tell us about that.
So, Blizzard messed up. A lot of people didn't get their weekly cash with the patch on Tuesday. So their way of apologizing was to give everyone a free cash, even if you didn't do your Mythic Dungeon the previous week, which is how you had to earn that cash in the first place. And it came with 1,000 of the, I forget the currency.
Awakening Essence.
Awakening Essence. Which basically 1,000 Awakening Essence is what you needed to purchase a legendary. So what you could do is every single alt you had at 110, you go to your order hall, open up the chest, get the essence, go talk to the vendor in Dalaran, and you can pick a legendary for each class. So I ended up buying like 7 druid legendaries and then mailing them to my druid and then opening those to get legendaries for my balance and my feral spec, because I ended up getting all of them by the end of the day.
Nice.
And the nice thing about that is your legendaries are still good up to level 116, so you can still use them while you're leveling, And things like the trinket Kill Jaden's Wish, which when you use the proc on that trinket is an AoE ability. So it's been shown during the beta that it essentially does a crap ton of damage as you're leveling to like AoE mobs. So it's just this nice extra AoE damage that you can use while leveling. That can, in some cases, I guess, one-shot things, which is pretty insane.
That's cool.
So I do very much encourage people to log in and make sure you do that, because you can actually use them to level in BFA.
Right, now for any new players watching, to be eligible to get this free legendary, is there anything that they have to do in prior, like run mythic dungeons, or is it just available to everybody with a class haul at 110?
Everyone with a class haul.
Awesome. There you have it, folks. Free legendaries. If you got a ton of alts waiting to go for BFA, go grab those legendaries. Cool. Anything else besides decking and blinging out your alts?
Oh,
just exploring the changes, yeah.
Okay.
For the most part.
What's that, Arf? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that what Kat was saying, you could pick your legendaries now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, before when Legion launched, I knew some people, couple of guildmates as well, that didn't get any legendaries for the first month or so, and some of us who were lucky enough got our best of slot legendaries, and in a way Blizzard really messed up. Relying, I was about to say, on RNG drops for some of the best items in the game. Yeah, you're gonna have people frustrated, so it was a very kind of taboo topic for them during this expansion. As Kat mentioned before, it's a great expansion. You know, nothing is perfect though, and that was one of the things. So now that we have the chance to pick the legendaries, I feel like I'm a kid in a candy store. Like, oh, I wanted that one and I wanted that one. You couldn't choose before, but now you can. So just wanted to add that.
Yeah, and if you grab it early, at least you have like 3 weeks to play with it before the expansion comes out. And even then, as you guys said, you know, you can use it for like 5 or 6 more levels before it becomes irrelevant anymore. But it's still nice to have. I mean, it's still, do these legendaries, like some of them, they also unlock some transmog stuff, right?
True.
Yes, that's right.
Alright, I guess I'll go into what I've been doing in WoW. Again, if you guys saw that video, you guys will have an inkling of what's been going on, but I boosted my Pally. I got a new Pally. I boosted him to 110, and over the last 5 days, I have finished the Broken Isles on him. I've also finished Argus. I've got my first raid in the LFR done, which is rather interesting. For a free legendary item, a ring that they give you for this one quest. I forgot the name of the quest already. I've also started grinding Argus reputation for the 2 new allied races, the Void Elf and the Lightforged Janai, or Janai. Lore masters are going to kill me here. And that's been going really, really slow, but other than that, I've just been having fun on the Pally, you know, just every day logging in twice, in the morning and at night, to complete world quests, because I have no idea what kind of timer they're on, but they seem to come back every 6 hours or so. So I've just been doing all kinds of world quests on Argus, in addition to farming those invasions that pop up on Argus. And one of the cool things was I got a legendary drop from an invasion, which was a cloak, which was great for Rat Pally, so that was kind of exciting. So within 5 days of a boosted new character, I've got 2 legendary items, which, you know, a few months back would not have happened. But then again, I've been playing World of Warcraft so much in such a short space. I've seen and done a whole bunch of things that, you know, when I was leveling during December all the way up to February, I didn't expect to see. So that was pretty interesting in terms of in-game. I'm also trying to get my class haul followers up to like 950 so that I can, you know, do those missions that give you insignias for reputation as well, because as I said in my video earlier this week, reputation grinds is, you know, a bit of a pain in the ass for me. The other thing that I did this week related to WoW was I got the Before the Storm novel for World of Warcraft, which is the official tie-in to the Battle for Azeroth expansion, and I was reading that, and I gotta say that was pretty awesome. I'm not sure if you guys have read that or listened to the audiobook, Before the Storm. You guys heard of it?
I plan on it.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of it
Okay.
from the other content creators. I have not read it yet, though.
Got it. It's awesome. it's really, really awesome. I've been doing a lot of lore hunting, I suppose, because when I did my review, my focus was on getting to cap and, you know, understanding systems and mechanics and getting the value proposition of what World of Warcraft can offer players that are on the fence about paying $14.99 a month. So the story comes and goes in pieces as well, because when you're moving up the expansions that fast in a space of the month, you're usually not afforded the time to soak in the story surrounding that expansion or the characters or their motivations going up through the expansions. But now that I actually have the time, I've been, you know, going backwards and soaking all that in, and at this point, I can safely say that I know a ton more about the story of World of Warcraft, especially at you know, at the point that we're in going into BFA. So for those that haven't read or bought, or, you know, I'm sure you can find it somewhere online, Before the Storm, I highly recommend checking it out, because you get to learn more about Anduin, King Anduin, and his motivations. You'll also see things from Sylvanas' point of view. Why is she the way she is? You know, because of a Forsaken. And there's also a surprise character that pops up, which kind of is the spark of why I suppose there's tensions now between the Horde and the Alliance going to BFA after what is supposedly a good victory over the Legion in this expansion, Legion. So really interesting stuff. I highly recommend checking it out. So that's it for me. Anything else you guys want to add in terms of what else you guys been doing in WoW?
That's pretty much it for me.
Okay, let's move on to preparing for Battle for Azeroth. Now, this is pretty similar to, you know, because we're all preparing for Battle for Azeroth at this point. 8.0 is already hit. You know, while Arv has already said that, you know, he's been selling stuff on the AH, just getting some gold. What about you, Kat? How have you been preparing for Battle for Azeroth?
Mage Tower skins, since no longer be able to get those after the pre-patch. So those are no longer available. Like, you can't get them anymore, basically. So before that dropped, a lot of people were doing the Mage Tower stuff in order to get their Mage Tower skins, which for most classes look pretty awesome. So it's one of those coveted skins for their artifact weapons that people have been chasing. So I wanted to get those done. As far as preparing, I really didn't do much outside of that. I did a lot of mythic raiding, so I wasn't really chasing gear for my main, because my main was already pretty good in that respect.
Right.
And I'd already decided a couple of weeks ago what I was going to play. Unfortunately, I didn't have to do much to get him up to speed. So other than the legendaries and some pretty cool skins and the content that's disappearing, I wasn't doing a whole lot leading up to BFA.
Gotcha. And for some context, or in case any new players are wondering, or players that are, you know, going to be jumping in, about the Mage Tower and the appearances and what players have been really trying to get over the past couple of weeks. So with Legion, there came this thing called artifact weapons, which are kind of like progress as you go kind of weapons. So you only use the 3 different artifact weapons that you get for your class specialization. So you don't really use like weapons that drop from mobs or whatever. And your artifact weapons grow with you throughout the Legion expansion. So with BFA, artifact weapons are kind of going away, but the thing is, all these artifact weapons for the different classes have, you know, awesome skins that, you know, you could use for transmog or whatever. So to make that permanent to your collections, players have to go and complete Mage Tower challenges, which I have not done myself because there's no way I'm going to get it done now. You guys want to elaborate on the Mage's Tower? How do you unlock the Mage's Tower, and what can players expect in terms of challenges for those of you that have done it?
Yeah, so the Mage Tower challenges are part of the Broken Isles. It used to be that they would spawn based on supply contributions on your server. Well, it wasn't even your server, it was across all the servers. So you contribute supplies to build the Mage Tower. So it was spawning on average maybe like once or twice a week. And then it would be active for like a couple of days. And while it was active, you could go in there and you could do a challenge. And every challenge was different for every single spec of every single class. So if you wanted to unlock the challenge skin for your elemental shaman, for example, you had to do the challenge for elemental. So you would go in there, and they were, when they first launched, they were actually incredibly difficult because the item level that everybody was at the time meant that the content itself was actually pretty difficult to do. You really had to min-max and really micromanage how you play and master everything your class was capable of in order to do some of those challenges. The reason a lot of people were grinding them towards the end of the expansion is because your item level was so much higher that the content became easier, specifically the DPS ones, because a lot of it was just, I can just pull more numbers and the challenge is easier.
And
so, yeah.
The fight itself, it was just against like a single boss, and then he had his own mechanics that you had to overcome. Was that how it went?
Yeah, pretty much. It's one boss, and there's specific mechanics that you would have to learn. At first, normally raids and dungeons have like mods, for example, that help you with the mechanics. They tell you what's about to happen. When these mage towers first came out, we didn't have those deadly boss mods. Did not have like a mage tower version, and so a lot of it was like you really had to pay attention, and you kind of had to micromanage everything on your own and really learn the fight. So,
as somebody who has never done it and is probably not going to do it at this point, you know, my priorities are elsewhere in terms of WoW. I like this. This is, you know, because there's a lot of players. WoW has so much players now, and we can break down the player base in terms of what their preferred style is: solo, raider, PvP, or whatever. This is a great challenge for everybody because it's something to work towards, not only to better themselves as players, understanding their classes, but there's real tangible rewards there because you're unlocking, you know, an awesome transmog skin for your weapons or whatever. So I do like that. If you're a solo player, this is a great challenge for you. If you hate, you know, grouping up or doing dungeons or, you know, raids and stuff like that, I think that's pretty cool. It's something I would have enjoyed for sure.
I hope they bring it back for BFA in some form because it was very fun. I did enjoy it.
Awesome. Arv, anything to add to how you've been preparing?
I kind of just want to bounce off what Kat was saying about the mage towers. I just did 2. That's all I could pretty much do. I got the Discipline Priest one and the Havoc Demon Hunter one. And man, she wasn't kidding when she said that those were hard. There were no mods to help you. You had to pay attention. You had to look at your talents. You had to talent differently from how you would be questing out in the world or doing dungeons or even raids. You had to follow what the boss was doing. You had to actually like, oh, is this going to reduce my interrupt? Okay, I'm going to take this talent because I need to interrupt this boss myself, kind of deal. And it was very, very difficult. But if you persisted through it and you went all the way and you took out that boss, it was such an amazing feeling. You know, maybe equivalent to something like, oh, I just soloed a raid. Sort of.
Yeah, I'd imagine that'll be fun too, especially, I mean, with leading up to BFA in general. I mean, there's a lot of cookie cutter builds for classes. Once you pick a spec, you just stay with it because you could just face roll the PV content with what you have. So the Mage Tower lets you really go into your build and do things that you wouldn't have done before in terms of utilizing the different skills and stuff. So yeah, I can appreciate that. That's actually rather interesting. Okay, let's go on to 8.0, the pre-patch that hit earlier this week. What did it bring? Well, I watched the live stream on Twitch yesterday of the Blizzard Q&A with Ian Hazzikostas, who's the game director, and he's pretty much said that the full game for the BFA, everything's patched in. It's just ready to go, and it's going to be a staggered release. So 8.0 that came this week, it's brought some of the core systems that BFA will have, like the stat squish, the changes to professions, war mode is already here, communities is already here, and a bunch of other things. But in terms of playing the new quest line, that's going to be coming on July the 24th, so that's next Tuesday, I believe, Wednesday for me. So, but I'm in the future, so I'll play it first. Technically. So let's talk about that. You guys, both of you, have you guys checked out any of the stuff, or just what are your thoughts about the new stuff that's come so far? You guys can lead off with the stat squish and, you know, how you find that better over the past, or, you know, just anything. Free for all. Let's start with you, Arf.
In terms of the stat squish, I've been doing some random heroics and a couple of raids here and there. Just, you're not used to seeing these really low numbers, so I just want to let people know that if you're at, you know, you're playing right now, don't worry about that. That doesn't mean you're doing quote unquote less DPS just because the numbers seem lower. I know it's different. We've been doing this for quite some time now in this expansion, where you're seeing like you're hitting for millions and oh, you're healing for millions, and now that the numbers have gotten considerably lower, you know, don't let that discourage you. You'll get the niche, because the content, the group content that I've been doing, we're finding that you're not blowing up stuff as fast as when we were prior to the stat squish, but you're killing stuff at a reasonable pace. You're not taking that long to take down the bosses in the dungeons. So
it's also easier on the eye, if you ask me. Like I find it easier to look at and absorb the information of what sort of damage I'm doing at a glance. I mean, I never thought about it until it recently happened, until the patch happened, because, you know, when you're leveling, when you get the Legion and you're hitting for like 3 million, whatever, you don't stop and think, oh shit, that's a shit ton of damage, you know, in terms of the figure, the numerics, the numbers. But then when you get the stat squish and you look at it, it's all small and it's easy to read and it's just very quick to analyze what you're doing. I actually prefer it, but the funny thing is, you know, it never really triggered like, oh, actually that's better. And in comparison, all the other games that I play, MMO-wise, you know, none of it goes up into the millions like what Warcraft has. So it's like, yeah, that actually makes sense. Nobody pays attention to these things until it actually, you know, visibly happens in game. So the stat squish, I mean, I'm not going to go into min-maxing because I'm nowhere ready for that in terms of where I'm at. But I do appreciate seeing smaller numbers on screen.
I guess I'll go next.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, basically, like, I think people shouldn't be worrying about the amount of damage they're doing right now, mostly because obviously the stat squish is changing the baseline for how much damage we're doing. Our talents have changed, our legendaries are still here, but some of those are going to be converted into the Azreck traits. Some of the better ones are going to, at least, and a lot of our artifact abilities have now been integrated into our talents. So we have choices in order to keep those in our rotations. But another thing that people need to consider is, like, it's kind of irrelevant right now, the kind of damage you're doing, because the stat squish and where we are right now is going to dramatically change by the time we get to 120. And even in the alpha and beta, none of us know what it's going to feel like when we have all of our Azreck armor, our 120 Azreck traits, our dungeon gear, our raid gear. So a lot of people are discouraged, or the classes don't feel that great right now because we've taken this step backward. However, we don't know how they're going to feel when we reach max level and we get that BFA gear and that Azreck armor. It may be like we return back to our former glory of Legion, where the classes are finally being played as intended, I guess, if you want to put it that way. So yeah, they feel kind of weak and right now, and maybe not as smooth, but I'm really hoping that by the time we finally get really into the end game content for BFA, that the classes will start feeling much better, because they're being played as Blizzard intended for the end game.
Yeah, good point. Besides Stat Squish, there's also some profession updates, most notably to First Aid. First Aid is no longer its own thing. It's been broken up into, I believe it's tailoring for bandages and, what's the other one? Alchemy?
I think it's alchemy.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to double check my alchemist.
This one really is, I mean, for those of you with max level First Aid or whatever the thing is, you guys, if you don't have tailors or whatever, this may feel like a loss, but otherwise, do you guys use First Aid at all? Like, is it an important thing in your, you know, PvE stuff? Is First Aid an important thing for you guys or not?
For me, no. I never used anything out of the First Aid. I didn't really level it up much. But since it's again baked into the tailoring and the alchemy, I'll give it a look in BFA.
Yeah, I guess I'll level tailor too. I mean, like bandages, I mean, the benefits of that is just like, you know, out of combat healing or whatever. It's still good, especially for classes that don't have healing skills of their own. I now have a pally, so that's not a concern for me, which is kind of why I like the pally in the first place. But like on my warrior, for example, like I tried to get him his First Aid up ever since somebody told me while I was leveling. It's like, since you're dying a lot, you know, you probably either need to invest in like potions or just get a First Aid skill and make bandages. And I'm like, that's a good idea. I'll never get it at this point, so I have to get like a tailor or something and boost that up. The other thing about professions as well is, like, I've read this somewhere and my guild's been talking about it, about how they're making it like if you want recipes or whatever, you want to max recipes for a certain expansion, like you want Draenor stuff recipes, then you can only use Draenor materials to get that high or something like that. I don't know how much of an impact that is because I haven't really done a lot of crafting in World of Warcraft in general. So if you guys haven't either, then we can move on to other stuff.
For Legion, for me, I maxed out most of my crafting. So I know that they did divide up each expansion now with their own professions in terms of leveling them up. So actually, they just kind of made it easier instead of having to grind from 0 to 800, like most of us did. So it was a welcome change, I'm sure.
So basically, just in a nutshell, for new players, what that means is that every crafting profession has a tier, and that tier is a specific expansion. So if you want to level it up, then you only get max up until that certain expansion's max recipe or something like that. I'm not even sure if I'm getting that right, but is that the gist of it?
I think it's like if you're in the Legion expansion, you're going to need Laystone and Fell Slate, yeah,
which only drops from the Legion areas. From
the Legion areas. Okay. So if you want to level up your mining, then you're going to have to mine those nodes. So if you're going to mine in the other expansions nodes, you're not going to be leveling up Legion.
Gotcha.
Mining, for example. Yeah.
Okay. Other things that came with patch 8.0. First of all, War Mode. This, I don't know, like people... I am on a PvE server, as are Kat and Arv. And War Mode, essentially, for new players wondering, you may have heard with World of Warcraft having two distinct servers in the past. You've got the PvE servers, and then you've got the PvP servers, and there's also roleplay servers as well. But with War Mode now, all players can go back to their main cities of Stormwind and Orgrimmar and turn on War Mode for PvP. So that means everywhere you go outside now, you can get ganked or be ganked. That's the same thing. And also take part in ganks, or just fight in the landscape or whatever. And the benefit of doing that, first of all, is you know it's a PvP environment now, and you also get more rewards because you're taking the risk to go out and play with PvP on, I suppose. So it's something that I have not yet tried because I am kind of grinding my rep right now for the 2L races, so I haven't really thought about checking out War Mode, but I will do so that when we review Battle for Azeroth in a month's time, we'll have more to talk about. Have you guys checked out War Mode yet? And more importantly, is that something you guys are interested in?
I've read a lot into it. A lot of people in my guild are pretty excited about it. Being on a PvE server, open world PvP has never been a thing, obviously. The nice thing about it, and one of the perks of doing it, even if you're traditionally not a PvP player, is that War Mode gives you access to extra talents that affect your PvE gameplay. So previously, PvE and PvP talents were completely separate. Your PvP talents only applied in arenas and battlegrounds or the PvP world quests in Legion. So now it's essentially been merged where when you activate War Mode, you're going to get additional abilities for your bar or passive talent effects that can improve your leveling experience and the PvE content that you're doing, with the caveat of people can kill you. So that's kind of like the trade-off there. You also get extra rewards for being in War Mode, like you're going to gain honor and things of that nature. So there's incentive, and I like their approach to it, where it's like, hey, even if you're not a PvP player, there is incentive for you to go into War Mode, because yes, there's chances that you're going to be engaged by opposing players, but there's also rewards and perks and extra talents that you're going to have available to you that can make your experience in PvE more enjoyable.
Yeah, so. I like the option. I really, really do. As opposed to games, especially like, for example, Bless Online and BDO that I've been playing for reviews this calendar year. It's like you're forced into PvP, open world PvP, whether you like it or not, because the game is built around that system. So having the option here, if you're on a PvE server and then all of a sudden you feel burned out and you want to, participate in some PvP fun, because PvP is fun in certain aspects. If you're with the right community, if you're in the right, whatever, if you got the group support or that kind of thing, it's really, really fun. And the thing is, they've made it in a way, at least the way I see it, is that you're not being forced into it, so don't feel like you're left out. Oh, I'm not getting enough rewards or whatever because I'm doing PvE, just purely PvE. if you want to check it out, you can just check it out. But the thing is, you're not going to be locked into it. You can just go back to Stormwind and just turn it off if it's not for your taste. So I really like the convenience of that aspect.
I do too. I'm definitely going to check it out. Like Kat was mentioning, you have so many incentives to do. You get the extra group of talents. I think it's also very like interesting for people that run quests together, that do quests together, because if they want to turn it on and check it out, they can, and if they don't like it, they can just turn it off. So it was a great move by Blizzard, in my opinion, because like you were saying about BDO and Bless, they force you into that, and that takes the choice away from the player. But in this aspect, you, the player, have the choice. You know, so if you like it, that's great. Keep on doing it. If you don't, just turn it off. So
it's something that we're gonna have to do soon.
Yes, we'll do it. How about we do it for a live stream? How about that?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
We'll do it.
Sounds good.
Our BFA leveling will be hilariously slow because we're getting killed all the way. And a funny story is like the day the patch hit 8.0, the next day I was already in. And I was just, because I was farming Argus, so I was doing all these invasion points, and you would open up your LFG and just look for a custom group to see invasions, and I saw so many players. Initially, it was grouping you with players that were in war mode, so that freaked me out because I was like, wait a minute, if I go and join this invasion group that started and everyone in there is war mode, will that put me in war mode? Eventually, that kind of, I think they patched that out so that no longer happens, which is kind of odd. So that was pretty interesting. Needless to say, I didn't go into that group because you were in an invasion point and you want to kill the boss. You don't want to get killed by players killing the boss. So it's pretty interesting.
Exactly.
And speaking of patch day, like, this is my first expansion cycle. I think a lot of you guys watching know that. This is going to be my first pre-patch and full expansion for World of Warcraft in 14 years. So I'm really excited about that. And I've also gotten to see, some of the things that happen on patch day. So yeah, there were delays. We couldn't log in patch day. That is normal. And all the hilarious stuff in between, which was pretty fun. Lots of bugs too. I remember jumping into LFR, to kill this one boss that I needed for a quest, and it didn't scale properly with the stat squish, so it's just one-shotting everybody, and all these things have been happening, which is kind of fun for me because I never got to see that side of World of Warcraft. And the one thing that impressed me is the speed at which they fixed the important issues. I'm not saying that there's a, Blizzard are ace in the hole fixing everything, because apparently there's like bugs that still exist from 3 years ago or 4 years ago, even 10 years ago. But yeah, it's been an experience. That's cool. Next up, communities are also here. So if you hit your J key now, you'll have a fancy new UI element where your guild is going to be in there. You can access your guild stuff, looking at rosters, who's online, and chatting in a style like Discord is, or like a WhatsApp group, which is really interesting. And also, you can create communities now. So you can create communities consisting of players of the same faction, and it works sort of like a micro guild, I suppose. And I think that's really, really cool to, put like-minded players together. For example, all of us in this discussion video right now, we're all in different servers with different guilds, but now we can all play together or coordinate better in World of Warcraft because we can create a community and join it and, go from there. So I really like this feature. I think it's something that not just WoW, but all other MMORPGs should have. I mean, some of them already do it. For example, Elder Scrolls Online, Guild Wars 2, they don't have communities, but they allow players to join 5 guilds. So that in itself is a good thing. And communities are the same. They're like micro guilds, as I said. So I kind of like it. Have you guys joined any communities? I mean, we're going to start one, that's for sure. And I think BFA will be cool with that.
I haven't joined one yet. I definitely intend to. I think communities is the dark horse of this patch. I think it is probably the best thing they have added to the game in a long time. And the reason for that is the reason games like Guild Wars, for example, that have mega servers,
right?
Meaning that anywhere you go in the world is going to combine people from other servers onto your map, so every map feels like it's populated. Well, it's not a world mega server with communities, but by allowing people from different servers to play together and organize for content, for example, like there's a Discord out there for people who like to do a lot of the secret puzzles in the game or certain achievements and collections. They can now create a community in the game where you no longer have to organize via Discord. You can now play with like-minded people who are not in your server, not in your guild, but they're in your community and they're oriented towards a specific aspect of content in the game. And so that makes it pretty amazing that now you have that outlet of being involved with people that you couldn't play with before or
Right.
couldn't organize content with before. So that's something that other MMOs have been doing. It's fantastic. It gets people playing together. It really enhances the value of a lot of the content. So I'm really glad that Blizzard has finally gone in that direction. It's smart, and I'm excited for it.
I agree, and the cherry on the cake here is the voice chat. So voice chat is now a thing in World of Warcraft on a larger scale. Communities have voice chat. Your guild has voice chat, and even when you join, I see it pop out so much now that 8.0 is out, which is why people are saying that the community feature works exactly like Discord. You no longer have to tab out because you can talk to players in game either via the chat function or just the voice chat. So that's an option there. So like what Kat was saying, there's very little to do outside of the game with regards to communicating and coordinating. So it's a really awesome change, not change, I should say, a feature that I think a lot of players will be happy about. For those that want to be social, that is, for those antisocial ones that just turn off voice chat, because now even when you join like a pug group, even for invasions or whatever, you can join the chat for that, the voice chat I mean, and that could get pretty annoying because, well, the Warcraft, community, larger than most games, you're bound to meet different strokes from different folks, so hey. Anything to add on?
What's great about the communities is it reminds me of, since the three of us have played other games, specifically Lord of the Rings Online before, is that we had a community. We had our alliance. It was a group of our guilds or kinships called in that game, and we all grouped up together and we did our runs. We did like dungeons or instances as they were called, and we were doing our raids as well. So just piggybacking off of Kat said, this is an amazing feature. It's coordinated, it's organized. We had to do our own coordinating back in Lord of the Rings, okay?
Yeah.
Like we didn't have
old school. Very old
very
school.
old
Yeah.
school. Like we had to find each other, add each other on friends lists and everything. But now everything is there. You join the community. You have people that you want to either get to know or already know. And you're like, hey, who wants to do this invasion point today? Or who wants to run this dungeon? Oh, you guys want to set up a raid for this week? Let's set it up here in the community.
Yeah,
So,
it was very much sort of like in games like that, it's like a one-way communication thing, So if you got 4 guilds, then the 4 guild leaders will trickle that down into their own kin chat or guild chat. And it's like, who's up for a raid tonight, whatever. With communities and features like this, it's just like a one post. Everybody sign up here. Everybody, acts up in community chat or whatever, and whoever can pick up. So it comes with technology, I suppose. The more time goes on, the more MMOs can implement this. Now it's down to the MMOs. Can they spend the time and the dev manpower to make this happen? And I'm glad that WoW has made it happen. I mean, it only took them 14 years. I mean, I don't expect this.
14.
Didn't expect this. I mean, we don't expect these in like the last decade or whatever, because as I said, the tech probably wasn't there at the time. But to have this now, yeah, really cool.
Yeah, I'm excited. Can't wait.
Awesome. Just to wrap up 8.0, there's also a couple of things that came, like there's changes to how some classes look in terms of skill animations, and I think there's changes to eye color as well for a couple of the races that are being affected with Sargeras' sword coming down and Silithus, and Azeroth is bleeding and all this stuff. So lots of lore stuff that has affected like the eye color of some races. That's pretty cool. Quick fire question: who's got allied races at the moment? Who's in
I have Alan. Yep, we both
I have Void Elf and the Lightforged. Yeah, I have both.
Okay, R for you. What do you got?
I have Lightforged, Void Elf, High Mountain Torrent, and the Nightborn.
Christ, I am like a month away of grinding to get them. Okay, so I just want to quick fire this real quick, and out of all the allied races that are coming with BFA, including the ones that are already out, so there's the Void Elf, the Lightforged Drenay, the High Mountain Torrent, the Nightborn Elf, and the other ones coming will be the Dark Iron Forged Dwarf, I think.
Yeah, the Dark Iron Dwarves.
Dark Iron Dwarfs, and a troll. I can't remember the name of the troll.
Zandalari Trolls.
Zandalari Trolls. And then later on, there's going to be the Orc.
The Magar Orcs, yeah.
Mega Orcs, and the cool Tyros Humans. So that's a bunch of new races. Let's start with you, Arf. Out of all of them, including the ones that you already have, which is the one that really made you go, oh yeah, gotta play that? Not because of how they look, in addition to what their racial passives and skills are.
Oh yeah, this was a no-brainer for me. I'm gonna make a Zandalari Troll. That's 110%. I will go into my shape-shifting forms and become dinosaurs. I'm gonna be a WoW dinosaur.
Is
Many
that a thing?
dinosaur forms. It's a thing, yeah. Like pterodactyl for the flying forms.
Holy shit.
I think you end up becoming a triceratops for the tank form. I forgot what the DPS form. I'll have to look it up again. But yeah.
I think it's a raptor.
Raptor? Okay. I'm a raptor then, for sure. Yeah, I forgot what the swimming form is, but I'll have to look it up. Yeah, for sure. Zandalari Troll, 110%.
That's awesome. I don't know if it's enough to make me go for the Horde, but that is awesome. What about you, Kat?
I will be doing Colterian human druid because their druid forms are fantastic. Like, you won't see anything like it in the game right now. So like their cat form and their bear form, it looks like some voodoo concoction of animal bones and tree roots and vines. Like, it's so unique, especially in the WoW lore, I guess, or what we've seen in the game so far. And they look so freaking cool, and it's the tiny details in the animations too. For example, the bear form for the Colterians, their jaws open wider than the other druid forms because it's basically just a skull, so like there's no muscle tissue holding it together. So their jaws open wider when they go to like bite something during the fighting animations. And they also had this glowing it's like this glowing light inside their mouth, I guess. It's kind of hard to describe. I guess it's like the essence of their form or something coming out through the skull or something like that. They just look amazing, and I'm super psyched to use that. I have every single skin in the game for my Feral Druid, including the challenge mode skin from the Mage Tower, and I'm probably going to use the Colterian skin. They look so freaking cool.
That's so crazy.
That's awesome. I mean, you guys have already like ironed out what you guys want. I mean, I'm still on the fence. Like I'm looking at all these races. I'm like, want, gotta have. Even some of the Horde ones, just like I said, it's gonna take me a while to get there. I need to get the rep done first for both.
So I just wanted to point out really quick that yes, Kat and I did mention our two allied races, but we mentioned the class that we're gonna play. So we're both gonna be druids on both sides, but you don't have to be druids. Allied races come in other classes as well, like warriors and hunters and monks, etc. But we recommend the druids because they're so awesome.
Druid, huh? Okay, I'll make that my next one, I suppose.
Put that on the list.
It's just a matter of faction now. I mean, like I said, I watched the full 4-hour cinematic for the Horde side. You know, it's for the whole game. So at the very beginning, I just didn't get the Horde. We're gonna go into some lore stuff here, so expect some story spoilers for those of you watching. But you can skip ahead by a couple of minutes. For me, it's all about the Alliance. As I said in the previous discussion, and even in my review, I'm just so I can relate to what they're after in terms of how the values that they stand for and all this stuff. I mean, we're caught in war. It's just what manner of values that you what's the word I'm looking for here? Reverberate, I suppose, when in wartime. So the Alliance and the Horde have both different ideologies about how they go about doing things, and I suppose I'm much in line with the Alliance as opposed to the Horde. But going back and reading some of these novels and watching the cinematics, because I will never get the time to level another character for the Horde site from 1 to 110 or 120 now. So watching those cinematics gave me a great insight into who the Horde are as a group, and I kind of like the way they change war chiefs every now and then. Like I wasn't expecting that, but it makes a lot of sense because as I was leveling up, one expansion you had Thrall, and then you had the orc guy, and then the last one Vol'jin, who unfortunately got stuck, and now it's Sylvanas. So it makes sense from an Alliance only player who doesn't understand what's going on the Horde side. It's interesting to see their perspective on how they view the Alliance and what we look like to them and everything. So that's really, really interesting. I totally enjoy the overall narrative because, well, for the most part, leading up into the last expansion, things have been really black and white in terms of storytelling. It's really black and white. Alliance are by the book kind of thing, and then the Horde is just this and that. As we get into Legion, there's a gray area that's starting to come out, and you do see that in novels as well. I just really hope that they continue this a lot, and I would like to see a dark side alliance a little bit, because at the moment Anduin's a little bit of a, what's the word that I'm looking for here? Yeah,
pretty boy.
That's a good one. I mean, I would like to see
Inexperienced king.
I would really like to see Anduin question his faith in the light and do things differently, because right now he's just, whereas Sylvanas on the other side, she's kind of derailing a bit. If I was Bane, the leader of the Tauren, and a bunch of the other Horde guys, I'm like, this is not what the Horde stands for. I think Sylvanas has her priorities a little mixed up. I mean, all she cares about are the Forsaken at this point. And as a Horde, well, you do care about, member of the Horde in terms of the race. It's for the overall good of the Horde. So I wonder what's going to happen there and which one of these leaders are going to bite the dust in the coming years. Any thoughts about the story in that point, from that perspective, you guys?
The spoiler-free version or tinfoil hat version?
Well,
I like the tinfoil hat version.
Yeah, we can go with that.
Yeah. So the tinfoil hat version is there's a lot of speculation going on right now. There's a there's a universal spectrum of, you have the light, you have the void. There's another aspect to that has been discussed quite recently in the lore videos, and that is undeath, and this idea that, and you'll see it in the some of the I think the recent book that came out, or the Audible book, and some of the shorts that they've been doing recently, which are awesome. I definitely recommend watching those.
Agreed.
Where the void considers Sylvanas the true enemy. So it's like, oh, okay, well, we thought the true enemy was the light. But in reality, light is not, there can be no light without shadow, no shadow without light. So it's that balance thing going on there. But undeath is immune to the void and the light. So it's like it's its own thing. And it's counter to both of them as far as what we know right now. And so Sylvanas being undead and being the leader of the Horde, and the circumstances of how she assumed that mantle might be foreshadowing to this this new conflict of void, light, and undeath. So I'm really hoping that we explore that in the future.
Awesome. Yeah.
And I'm really curious to where that's going to go, because that does sound pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a gray area that we're talking about, or we touched on already.
Definitely looking forward to it. I'm more invested in that now, more than ever. Knowing the lore and the story now, it's just so insane, and the way that, especially Sylvanas, like in the past, I really couldn't give a shit about her. Like I just thought this was one evil person or whatever. But now going deeper, I just understand where she comes from. And ever since Arthas killed her and made her what she is, and her journey to get to where she is right now, you do see a lot clearer from the Horde side. I've had to open my mind and understand that side of the game, the Horde aspect, and it's really rewarding. I'm so invested in this story. And yeah, it maybe fluff to a lot of people, but I'm a story person. Like I said many times before, if it's engaging enough, I'm more likely to absorb the world and be more involved in the game. So I really appreciate the way that Warcraft kind of delves into these characters, and you know, you watch them grow, like Anduin and you know, all these people. It's really awesome.
As a tinfoil version, folks. Now, don't take that as canon because it's not. We don't know.
Yeah.
But it really rises or gives rise to a lot of discussion of where the lore will eventually end up. Like Adrian was saying, there's a lot of gray areas, but I think that's one of the main strengths of World of Warcraft is, and how it's progressed and evolved throughout the years since vanilla, is the storytelling. Legion is awesome in terms of storytelling, like Adrian was saying, with the cinematics, and now we're going to go into this big war between the Alliance and the Horde, but if you've been playing, you kind of get a sense that something else is behind the scenes. Maybe the old gods are planning something, because the old gods aren't really necessarily dead, even though we took out 2 of them in 2 of the raids. They still have a lot of influence on Azeroth, so we'll see if they have anything planned for us in the future story / maybe raid tiers as well.
Yeah, and what's exciting for me, because I still consider myself a WoW newbie, even though I am a WoW newbie. I think my total time since December has only been like a month of playtime in total. So you know, you see what else Blizzard's doing. They came out with a comic strip. They're coming out with these shorts, which Kat mentioned, and you watch the snippet. You can go to World of Warcraft's YouTube, or you can watch it through their website. The shorts were awesome, and I talked about this in my review, the Blizzard ecosystem that they have to create content that relates back to the game, and being able to flesh out these stories and characters in a way that the game necessarily can't, because it has to keep a certain amount of linearity in terms of how much we know. But having books and novels and, you know, comics and TV, it just explores that a little bit more. It lets the writers flesh things out so you understand deeper what's going on, not just in terms of the headspace of where these main characters are, but for the world building as well. And I, as a new player, this, for me, it's like a gold mine of, oh my god, I want more, give me more, you know, that kind of thing. So that's where I'm at in terms of the story. I really am enjoying this entire build up into BFA story wise. So yeah,
great, man, glad to hear that.
That's been, I just wish they'd put it out sooner, like, you know, the shorts. I just can't wait, and a whole bunch of things. But cinematics too, like in my guild I asked, like, what are you guys looking forward to with the 8.0 patch? Nobody said anything about stat squish or war mode, whatever. There was like the new cinematics, you know. Everyone's like, we want the new cinematics, and I now understand what that is like, because I watched 4 hours of cinematics back to back, especially the ones for Draenor and Legion. Those become like a rewarding thing itself. Like, people finish the raids, like when you finish Entorus, the Burning Throne, like, you get this awesome cinematic that actually tells you what's happening in the world. It's moving the story along, and it's important for players to see this, because it will make sense when you go to New Zone and when you start questing. It makes more sense. I never got that experience from, I would say, TBC all the way up to Pandaria. I didn't have any of that because I missed out on the pre-patches. I didn't do any of the raids. But now, being at the current cap, you do see how they lay the foundations going into the next expansion, and that is very rewarding as a player that is looking forward to that aspect. Storytelling, the world building is fantastic.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, quick fire time. Who uses add-ons? Anybody?
Me.
We do.
Lots of add-ons.
All right, we'll start with Kat. What's your top 3, if you had to recommend add-ons to new players? What are the top 3 or 2, or how many you have? But let's stick with 3. Top 3 that you use and you'd recommend for new players.
Weak Aura's #1. Gotta have it. It's just way too good. It's so convenient. You can do a ton of amazing things with it once you learn how to use it. And there's a huge online source where anything you could possibly want to add to your weak aura, someone else has probably already created it, and all you have to do is import it. So it's very versatile, very flexible, a lot of fantastic features to it. So that's your #1. A damage meter. I use details. Damage meters, especially if you're a new player. There's lots of resources out there like WoW logs, where you can compare the numbers that you're pulling to people who have been playing the content, and it even breaks it down by item level. So it's a really good gauge of like, well, how well am I actually playing my class right now compared to everybody else in the world who's playing World of Warcraft. So if you're having a hard time with your content, even if you're just doing casual PvE and you want to get better, it's a really good way to figure out where you're at. If you're playing damage, if you're playing DPS, doesn't really apply to tanking and healing. Those are two very different play styles. So if that's what you do, then damage meter isn't going to help you so much. It'll help you a little bit for healing, but healing is not so much how much healing you're doing as opposed to how are you mitigating damage based on your class. It's far more complex than just numbers when it comes to healing. I have to communicate that to my raid sometimes because people are like, you're not pulling a lot of healing right now. And it's like, that's not an indicator how good a healer they are. So maybe Arvik can expand on that more since he actually heals. Third add-on, definitely either big wigs or what's the other raid one?
DBM.
DBM. A lot of people use DBM. DBM is very vocal, kind of in your face. You're not going to miss any mechanics in dungeons or raids with DBM because it's going to tell you exactly when something's happening, what to do, and things of that nature. Big wigs is the exact same concept where it's going to tell you when things are occurring in the boss fight, but it's less vocal, less in your face, less text on the screen to distract you. I prefer big wigs because I've been raiding for a very long time. I don't need something like DBM to be, crashing alarms in my headset while people are trying to say things in Discord,
Gotcha,
so I prefer the minimalist version of that feature. But those are my top three. Weak aura, detailed damage meter, and DBM or big wigs.
Awesome. And before we move on to ARF, I'm going to be linking all the links to download this stuff in the description box below for new players, so check that after the video. All right, ARF, what's your top three?
Okay, since Kat took my top three, I'll have to...
it's okay if you want to overlap. It's totally fine.
No. It's okay. I'm actually going to name some that are quite useful in terms of your day-to-day. And if you're like me and you like to play the auction house, Postal is definitely a great add-on because it's pretty much... It's so great in how you can utilize your mailbox. There is this one button that opens up all your mail. Let's say you put up a couple of auctions, and you don't want to click on each one and collect your gold. Wink, wink. Hopefully you get a sell or a sale. And it just opens it all up for you. And whatever expired will go into your bags, and you don't have to do much. And it also keeps track of all your alts, too, on all servers that you have your alts on, not just the main server that you're playing on. So let's say you have some buying Blizzard on account bound stuff. You can just mail it to them automatically. You don't have to type the name of your alt if you don't remember what the name of your alts were, for example. That's happened to me quite a few times. You can just put it there. So Postal is definitely something I would recommend just on a day-to-day basis. Another one I would definitely recommend if you plan on doing a lot of gathering as a profession in terms of like ore or herbs or skinning is definitely Gatherer. Well, not for skins necessarily, but for ore and herbs. Like it actually, once you plug it in, the ore or the herbs that you've been currently mining, it actually like puts a little marker on first your mini map and your big map. So when you want to go back there and mine again or herb again, you can check out where you last herb and see if it that node source respawned there. So something to keep in mind if you want to do that, because herbing and mining are very lucrative and profitable, especially at the beginning of an expansion, because everybody needs that stuff, in order to make consumables or to make pretty much anything else that requires all the other crafting professions. And so other than Gatherer, what else would I... Handy Notes. Once Handy Notes comes out, if they plan on doing any kind of like treasures, which they've been pretty consistent about in terms of when it first started in Worlds of Draenor and then it continued into Legion. If at any point they add Battle for Azeroth treasures, I mean, it looks like they will because they have this whole like pirate theme kind of in the undercurrent right now.
The expeditions,
like, with the expeditions, right? And then if they put that on the landscape, it's great because it'll mark your map where the treasures are, and you just go there and you get your treasure. So I thought that's pretty handy. It's called Handy Notes. Huh, look at that. Handy.
Awesome.
made a pun there. But yeah, but
totally-
cats are
I was looking at my notes. It totally flew over my head. Like,
because they're so handy. I know. Bad
I got it though.
But definitely
I got it.
Okay. So definitely go with cats first. Those are the top 3, and then you can even like just search around, and then Adrian will put the links in the description below, like you said, about what other add-ons to get.
And add-ons, you guys, for any new players watching that are thinking about getting add-ons now, just keep in mind that with add-ons and anything that affects the UI for any game, when there's a new patch out or whatever, some of these become outdated, and then you'll have to wait for the developers of these add-ons to patch in the new updates, and then you got to re-download them and install them. So at this point, a lot of the add-ons that were talked about have already been updated for 8.0, which is great. So that means you can already start getting the ones for Battle for Azeroth, but there's a lot more on sites like CurseForged and WoW UI and a whole bunch of places where you can get this stuff, where something might sound really cool, but just check the version of the add-on. So we're at 8.0 right now, so if the add-on is not 8.0, it's probably not going to run well on your client and will cause slows and all that stuff, so be aware of that. As for my add-ons, these guys pretty much have listed what I'm using, even though I'm not much of a raider right now. Stuff like DBM, really handy for going to pugs and just helping you out, because for whatever reason, I mean, for the usual reason, nobody talks a lot in pugs, obviously, so having those stuff in there is actually pretty helpful. Because of what I'm doing in terms of where I'm at in Legion and Argus, just trying to get my grinds done, I've been using this add-on called World Quest Lists. For those of you still trying to finish Legion, these are great because it lists all the world quests currently available on all of the Broken Isles, Argus included, the type of reputation in terms of which faction are the world quests for, in addition to what the reward is and the timer on it. So how long left do you have to do these world quests? So I'd recommend that for those of you still trying to finish Legion World Quest List. The other one that I have, which unfortunately is outdated right now, is called Garrison Mission Manager, and this one's great because with Warlords of Draenor you got the garrison system where you gain followers to send out on passive time-based missions to bring back a bunch of things like follower upgrade items, gold, and some other goodies. In Legion there's a class hall one as well where you send out your champion followers to go do the same things, and these are pretty beneficial because you can bring back the rep insignias that I'm currently hunting for, in addition to gold and other bunch of stuff like awakening essences too. So what this Garrison Mission Manager would do is that it would auto put the best followers in terms of what their abilities are into a group, and then you just click the send button. So it's always geared up to make sure that you have the best chance for success. Now unfortunately this is outdated, but I say keep an eye on it in case BFA brings something like this back. So for the future, this is a really handy one to have. So it takes the time away from you having to look through your champions and try and figure out what's the best makeup of that follower group to get the highest percentage for success. So keep an eye on that. And the last one that I use, well, I mean, this is really personal, so I'm probably not going to mention it. But yeah, that's my two. But it's Bagnon, really. Bagnon, the way World of Warcraft works is that...
I use Bagnon.
Yeah.
It's so good. I love it.
It puts... it combines all your bags into one just main giant bag, which can sort itself. I mean, the default WoW bags can sort itself too, but you can sort it, you can search for items, and you can also see what's in your alts bags and all that good stuff. So I recommend Bagnon. It's really handy for those of us, that just love seeing everything in just one bag. It's really awesome.
And there are more, but that would take us too long to list.
Yeah.
Those are just some of the ones we use.
All right, quick fire time. Like, I didn't plan for this, but let's do a quick fire here. I want to talk about that garrison system and the class hall mission system. Just basically those follower type time-based missions. Now, when I was doing my review, a lot of people that don't play WoW anymore stated that this is one of the things that this is one of the ways that World of Warcraft is kind of killing the game in a way in terms of the content, to try and keep people still playing the game, still paying the subscription, but doing things like this where it's really passive time-based stuff. I want to get you guys' opinion on this. With the whole garrison and the class hall follower mission system, what do you guys think of it as a whole? Like, is it something you guys don't mind because you're doing other things anyway, like raiding and PvE stuff, and this is a way for you guys to make the extra gold or just get the benefits of stuff? Or is it an annoyance to you? Like, oh, why do we have this again? Why, are we spending time just trying to grind our followers up to a higher item level to get stuff? Or just your thoughts on it in general. We'll start with Arv. Or Cat, sorry. Go.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
It's okay.
Yeah. I think it's a good system only because it's something that you can opt into. It's not required in order for you to enjoy the game and do the content that you want to do. It's great if you're playing consistently, especially with the Legion version of the Order Hall missions. Mostly because it was things like rep, which all of us were grinding when the expansion launched. So it was really nice that you could have these passive missions where you just send some NPCs out and they come back and they give you rep, and all you did was click a button, like you didn't have to go do a world quest or grind or kill mobs or anything of that nature. So it accelerated the process if you wanted to participate in that content. And like I said, it's not required. There's nothing on it that's game breaking. It will give you access to weekly quests that could give you extra loot for the week, which is fantastic. My favorite Order Hall missions were the ones for the raids because, like myself, I want to say it's like, I think it was 10 boss kills or something, where the loot that you got from that Order Hall mission was based on the tier that you were at in terms of rating. So when I killed 10 heroic bosses, the cash that I would get, the loot that I would get from that Order Hall mission would be heroic item level. If I killed 10 mythic bosses, then the loot I got from that weekly quest was mythic item level. So it was really, really great that when you had killed 10 bosses of that tier, you had a free loot basically that week, or an extra loot roll that week where you were guaranteed something for that tier that you're playing at, which is a very nice feature, and I really liked it. It was probably my favorite one, second to the reputation stuff.
Gotcha.
So I didn't mind it. You could opt into it. It wasn't required, so I think that it was handled correctly. And yeah.
Awesome. Arv?
I don't mind it, just like Kat. What the example she gave was perfect, especially if you're into raiding. I also like going back into the garrison iteration in Warlords of Draenor. You can get mounts. You can get other items that would give you garrison resources. You can still get these now, by the way. If you're still working on your garrisons, you can. Apexis crystals, which was the other currency when the Tanan update came out. Like Kat said too, it's optional. You don't have to do it. But I enjoyed doing it. I still do my Order Hall and my garrison missions now. One of the main things from a lot of the videos and researches that I've done is that how you can still make a little bit of coin on the side over there. So it's really ridiculous. Like, you could still use your Warlords of Draenor garrison. It has a cap of I believe it's 10,000 resources from what I remember.
Yep.
Anyways, you can use your garrison resources to still purchase stuff in your garrison, and if you have the trading post, you can still purchase. You could trade in your garrison resources for some of the Legion specific materials, and the one I'm going to give is for Sumptuous Fur, and Sumptuous Fur is used for many things. Like, it's still used for the 30-slot Hexweave bags that are still the largest as of right now.
Right.
And they're also used for other things, and they're not bound to your character. They're not bound on pickup. You could still sell them on the auction house, and believe me, they still sell. So you can still make some money off your old world garrison. So, I mean, for what you were saying, Adrian, about the people that may find it annoying or see no point, or how it's quote killing the game, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and that's fine. But the way that you can choose to do it or not to do it is completely up to you.
Right.
So and we're getting another one in Battle for Azeroth. So there you go. It's gonna be a ship. It's gonna be on a ship. It's gonna function the same way.
For
not going away. It's staying.
That ship is not sailing.
That's a good one. Not sailing.
All right. So for new players watching, the garrison and the order hall, like these guys have said, it's not optional. You don't have to do it. When these expansions were current content, I think all of us here across the board will advise you to get into it, because there will be clear benefits to maximizing these systems when the expansion is current. But for Legion and garrisons right now, if you're wondering, should I spend the time now to get my followers or champions up or whatever, I'm gonna have to say no, because we're so close to BFA. I think I would suggest new players to just get BFA, play through the content, and level up BFA's version. Then you can go back and retroactively do whatever. But at this point in time, right now, I would not recommend, worrying too much about the Legion class hall stuff and the garrisons. So, you guys agree, or?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Unless you're chasing like something specific, yeah, it's not worth doing.
Okay, so the couple of things that you guys already talked about, which was going to be quick fire, but we'll do it anyway because we're getting close to the tail end here, but we also have one big section to go, so hang tight for that. So the first quick fire, I was going to ask these guys what are their top tip, the best way to make gold for them in World of Warcraft, and find out how these guys make their money, because hell, I want to know too. My profits really low. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm not even looking at my gold. I'm just not, because I'm just farming rapid. I'm not even thinking about gold. So our view mentioned that garrisons were a good way to get some gold, selling those mats and whatever. But what's your best way right now, for the go-to way that you go to make gold?
So I've been kind of hinting at this the whole time we've been doing this. So for me, it's using your gathering professions and selling the materials on the auction house. People will buy them. I guarantee you it's going to be a huge gold making profits for you, especially with our next expansion coming up. Let's say some people don't have a miner or an herbalist, and you're the miner or the herbalist, because you can take those two on one character, and you go into Battle for Azeroth and you gather all these herbs and all these ores and you put them on the auction house. I guarantee you they will sell. People need them to make other things with the other crafting professions. It's done wonders for me, and I'm going to keep doing it. I don't mind herbing. I would recommend just putting some great music on in the background and clicking on those nodes and selling all that stuff.
Herbing, herbing down here means smoking up.
Well, I don't think you can smoke them in the game, but maybe Blizzard will make that up.
Yeah, I know. It was just a joke.
Gathering, I know. But yes, gathering these materials is a great way to make gold, for sure. Yeah. 100%. All
right, Kat, what's your secret?
Go outside, mow somebody's lawn for $20. Put that $20 in your bank account, and then swipe your credit card on a WoW token, and then sell that on the auction house for 200,000 gold.
That's my oh my god.
I am way too lazy to make gold in any game ever. I've never been interested in doing it. If I have the option to just buy the currency through the game, I'm probably going to take the easy way out and just swipe my credit card. Obviously, not everybody can do that, but the wonderful thing about World of Warcraft is that you can either use real money, or you can earn gold in the game in order to pay for your subscription. So it's kind of a two-way street. Not as great as Guild Wars' system, where you could buy currency and transfer it between, gems and gold. But it definitely creates more flexibility in people who are very, very good at playing the auction house and making gold in the game. They can also make profit and by way of paying for their subscription for the game and not having to pay real money to play, which is fantastic. That's great. Yeah. But me personally, I'm in the group of people who's just going to spend $20 to give Blizzard my money it's like, hey, I love your game, I play it all the time, here's $20 so I can use in-game currency to buy them out that I've been looking for. So.
That's totally fine. That's awesome.
I definitely bought one of her WoW tokens for sure.
I've bought one as well. there's like, you know, when I was starting my leveling stream, because I would live stream my leveling process to get the review. Like the first 3 weeks, I was like on like 50,000 gold, and then on the fourth stream, people started noticing, hey, how do you get 180,000 gold? And then I was like, oh, I bought the WoW token because I didn't have the money to buy flying. Like I had already unlocked flying on my mounts, but it was like so expensive. I didn't have the gold. I'm like, how am I gonna get this gold? So I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna buy a token and sell it. And back then it was 180k, and I've also known people in game in my guild. There's this guy who has well, if you've been playing for more than like 10 years, you have more than enough gold to never pay for another subscription, you know. So you can definitely get to that point. It's just going to take some work, knowing what you're doing, making use of how you get your gold and stuff like that. So that's a tip for you.
It's definitely an incentive because, yes, I use my gold to pay for my subscription, and it's a great feeling to pretty much playing for free.
Free
to play. Get
which
it?
is crazy.
Then, you know.
Oh, speaking of which, another thing that 8.0 has done, Blizzard has removed the fee to play the game. Like, you had to buy the base WoW game and then pay the subscription.
Oh, yeah.
Blizzard's got rid of
Free
that.
now.
Yeah. So you can check out the game for free until level 20, and then if you want to play it, all you got to do is just sub. You do not have to buy World of Warcraft. And when you sub now, you get access to everything up to Legion with your sub, which I think is good value, but it also kind of is sort of like unfortunate for people who bought the game like maybe like 2 weeks ago, and then now 2 weeks later the game just went, you know, they got rid of that base price. So if you are in that boat, well, unfortunately shit happens. But for everyone else that have yet to jump into WoW, Blizzard has now removed that one, you know, barrier of $40 or whatever it was, $20 or something for the base game. So it's just now $15 a month, and you get access to all this stuff.
That's like $300 worth of expansions for $50,
expansions.
by the way.
Yeah. So it's a great deal.
That's
Definitely
a deal.
Yeah, that's, you know, just take a month off of work and just play. Oh gosh. All right, let's get to the final quickfire, and then we'll talk about some endgame stuff, which I'm excited about because I am looking to get into WoW's endgame, and I've got two friends here to help me into that. Now I get to pick their brains, but before we go to that, let's talk about something that I dislike talking about, which are grinds. And I've only just started grinding for things that I need in World of Warcraft, but I'm going to ask these guys because they've had more experience here. Like, in World of Warcraft, and we'll start with Arvin this one, what was the longest or the hardest grind that you've had to do in World of Warcraft so far? What is it, and what was it for?
Oh, yeah, that's easy. That's pretty much almost every reputation grind in any of the expansions.
Okay.
Trying to get yourself from the base, which I believe was neutral or is neutral, and it's getting to the max, which is exalted now.
Yep.
The specific one I'm going to mention, maybe Kat can attest to this as well, was what it took to get flying in Draenor.
Right.
It took a lot of things, but this one thing, we did it as a guild at the time. At the guild that I was in was the Saber Stalker rep in Draenor. There were no quests for them, and how you got rep with them was to kill them, to take them out. You go into their specific area, and you just grinded them. That's all you did. It took us about, I think, 4 or 5 days as a group, and you couldn't do it as a raid. You had to do it as a 5-man group. So we had to split up into different 5-man groups, and that was the only way you can get rep. Now there were ways to increase your rep, like guild banners, which we still have now. So if you kill a mob near a guild banner, you get increased rep. There are other ways to get increased rep, like the Darkmoon Fair and stuff like that. But man, that was the longest. I'm still not happy about that, and I'm glad we don't have to do that because of the advent of World Cup. Yeah. Right. So now we can, and then what Kat was saying too, using the Order Hall, you can get your reputation through the Order Hall mission table now. So there's no more killing mobs. You just click on the token, and there you go. It accelerates the process. All right. So yeah, that's my biggest one. For sure, the Saber Stalker.
Glad I missed that one. All right, Kat, what about you?
I was gonna say artifact power, but in hindsight, I don't think it was as grindy as we originally thought, because it did scale and it did get easier as every week went by. So I think that system in general was actually done pretty well. The balance of power quest line. So in Legion, all of the content leading up to the Nighthold raid required you to do this balance of power quest line, and it was content that was gated behind reputation. So it was like 10 chapters in order to complete the Nighthold or the balance of power quest line, and a lot of those chapters were locked behind reputation. And at the time, it required an awful lot of grinding of the world quests. I personally wasn't all that interested in like the Nighthold area, so it was really hard for me to like grind that on a daily basis. And the reason it felt so grindy is because you wanted to do it because the skin for the artifact weapon that you got from completing the quest line was amazing. So it's something you wanted, but getting there took so long and it was so grindy. I had to do so many world quests to get the reputation in one faction just to do the chapters. So that was my big one.
I actually have that quest in my quest log right now, and because I didn't do any research about it, that balance of power would unlock for the Ashbringer, which is the red paladin weapon, the fiery looking sword. So the sword was on fire. That to me is the best paladin Ashbringer skin, which I will never get now because I'm not going to do that quest, knowing what it entails.
Just take it off your quest bar.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it.
Don't worry about it anymore.
But do you guys see what the one constant system WoW has for grind now? That I think a lot of us we do it because we have to do it. There's something we know what the carrot at the end of the stick is, but the reputation grinds in World of Warcraft seem to be a recurring theme here in terms of the way WoW does this and how they gate stuff behind this. It's pretty interesting because I play a bunch of MMOs now, and there are games that don't have rep grinding at all. They do have long grinds requiring different objectives that need to be met from different parts of the world or content, but it's not a rep grind. Whereas other games like Lotro, for example, that had rep grinds as well. And this system of rep grinding, would you guys like to see it? Would you guys like it to continue, or would you like it to be diversified a little bit? Like, let's keep rep grinds to something else, and let's split the rewards using different systems and mechanics, like maybe just world completion or PV completion instead of having to do max exalted with the current faction for rewards or whatever. I mean, I'm just curious to know, because you guys have been doing this stuff. You guys are, I think, desensitized a little bit to rep grinds. You're like, okay, new expansion, new rep to grind. Okay, let's go. For me,
yeah.
For me, I'm like,
I think.
Go ahead.
If they did one thing, just one thing, I would be okay with this system.
Okay.
And that is making reputation account wide.
Oh, fuck yes. Oops. I mean, yes.
I do not want to do it on every single character I have just to get the rewards or the carrot at the end of the stick. One character only, never have to do it again.
See, they did that with the flying. So we pretty sure they can apply it with the reps, but the rep grind is there for a reason. Yeah. It's about that carrot on the stick you were talking about. It keeps you.
Yeah, it's a business
wanting
decision.
To log in more.
It's a business decision. Yeah,
it sucks. Yeah. When you hear grind, you're like, oh, grind again. But you're right. It's like we have been kind of desensitized. Now, would I be going back there and doing that Saber Stalker rep again? Of course not. That was rough. But what Kat said, if they just make it account-wide, or what I was going to say was, let's say you just finish the story, and then you just get the rewards. Because a lot of rewards are locked behind reputation, especially under Exalted. A lot of the cool ones, especially like mounts and stuff. So if that's a great point that you made, is if you just make it once, then we never have to do it again, that would be great. Probably not going to happen, though, but...
Yeah, I doubt so. I mean, I would love
Christmas wish list.
I would love for it to happen because I've been spoiled now by games that have account-wide progression and account-wide achievements, and it's sometimes I'm like, that has set the standard in terms of what I expect an MMO to offer. But then again, the world is round, so it doesn't always happen that way. So in WoW's case, the thing is with this rep grinds, yeah, at present time they feel like shit, especially for me, because I am driving at 200 miles per hour trying to catch up to a lot of the player base as a new player on my new pally. I had 5 days to get to where I am at, which by itself is a crazy feat. So I am so into the grinds from Legion coming to Argus and now into BFA. I'm going to be doing these things back to back now. So for me, it's going to feel, I hope it doesn't result in a burnout, but I'm pretty sure it will. But the thing is, I will say at least the things that you're grinding the rep for are things that I would say are not core systems. So when you go to other games, for example, the grinds there are probably regarding, okay, let's get legendary weapons, let's farm things to make the legendary weapons better. In World of Warcraft, a lot of it comes down to just play the game, play the content, play the main story, do some dungeons, and you're pretty much good to go in terms of where your item level should be before you jump into the harder content. Now that in itself is going to be an optional thing. Do you want to go beyond item level 9, 10 to get into 30, 40, 70, into those high-end stuff or not? That's up to you. In other games, that is the grind. You don't have those rep stuff. Or in some games, it's completely different. You don't have stuff like artifact weapons. You've got legendary weapons where it's going to take you months and months and months to get those weapons, bar no rep grinds. So it's at this point, if you're a new player, it's about choosing what kind of endgame grind you want to do. And with World of Warcraft, we're talking about rep grinds because they are a lot of stuff like Pathfinder flying and cool skins and mounts and allied races are kind of locked behind reputation. When you look at it from the broader picture, these are not core endgame systems that you're going to be spending months trying to better your character for. At least that's what my observation is. So in that way, I will tolerate the rep grinds because I know what I'm looking forward to in terms of what I want to unlock, allied races in my case. But in terms of making my character better with endgame gear or whatever, this is an optional grind that World of Warcraft has. You can stop at 900, you can stop at 910 and just play the content or not. So that's
with the rep grinds too. I was just telling Kat earlier, with my demon hunter is an inscriptionist, and I can actually make these new things. As an inscriptionist, where they're called contracts, and actually they increase the rep you gain by completing certain world quests for certain factions. So using that, I'll be lessening the blow of the rep grind.
That's handy. Using
those crafted materials.
Yeah.
But it's still gonna be a grind, guys. Because let's not sugarcoat it so much. But I love the word that you use, desensitized, because we're so used to it.
Yeah.
I mean, and you will choose whether to do it or not.
I mean,
if you want to get the flying, you're gonna do the rep grind.
I asked around when I was going through all of it. I just asked around. So how do you guys feel about this? Because like I said, I'm doing it now. I'm relatively new, so I'm the one that's catching up. So I'm experiencing all this stuff, and I'm asking people around me like, how do you guys deal with this? It's like, oh, we've done it many times before. It's just like a no big deal. This is what we can expect from Blizzard moving forward. So that's kind of like the mentality that a lot of the player base are at. So it's become normal. Alright, and now we're moving on to our endgame section. For those of you guys that have watched the entire of the video, I hope it has been informative so far, and you guys are... throughout this video, you guys have any questions or whatever, feel free to post them in the comment section below, and we'll get to it and we'll answer your questions. Not a lot for me because I'm still new myself, so I'm the one asking the questions here. So, and I'm going to continue asking the questions because the next section is we're going to be talking about how to get into WoW's end game of sorts. You want to get into mythic stuff, mythic dungeons, mythic raids. As a new player, how do you jump from I've just hit level cap, I've just farmed Argus, I've just gotten all my relinquished gear so that my item level is now 910, which with 8.0 that should take you to about 205, I think, item level, the way they convert that now. So Arv and Kat here, they've both been running endgame stuff throughout all the games that I've known them on. Endgame stuff is kind of like their bread and butter. So I'm going to pick their brains and try to answer some questions that you new players might have. So the first one, obviously, from a new player perspective, I've just hit 110. what is the first thing I need to do to prepare myself for running endgame content? Anybody want to take this on?
I'll take it.
Okay.
So we could start with Mythic Dungeons, because that's kind of the gateway to Mythic rating. So in Legion, they integrated probably the most fantastic dungeon system they probably could have ever gone with, and it's called Mythic Plus. And so previously the most challenging form of dungeon running was the Mythic tier. So you've got normal, heroic, and then Mythic being the most difficult. Well, what they did in Legion is they came out with a system called Mythic Plus, where it's basically a scaling dungeon. So as you do a Mythic Plus and you complete these dungeons successfully, you get a keystone where the next time you run that dungeon, you can do it at a higher difficulty, which means you also get better rewards, higher item level loot, and you can improve your character the more challenging and the higher the key that you do. However, it's not just better rewards that you get. There's also affixes. So what an affix is it's basically an added mechanic to the dungeon itself, where it'll do something like if you stand still for 5 seconds, you're going to have a lava font spawn underneath your feet. If you don't move out of that lava font, you're going to take a lot of damage. So it's these little mechanics that, and there's probably like, I think 12 different affixes to choose from, and they would be random every single week. And the higher up you go, I want to say, I think it was Mythic Plus level 12 or something, was when you would get 3 affixes. So it would start with 1, and then 2, and then 3 affixes being the max. So having to deal with 3 extra mechanics as you're doing this dungeon, all the while the bosses hit harder, the trash mobs hit harder, they have more health, all these other different factors that make it more difficult. And the rewards, like I said, get even better the higher up you go. So my biggest suggestion, if you want to start doing the more challenging content at the end game, start with the dungeons, start with the Mythic Pluses, because they're going to, one, help you get better at your class, because it is going to be more difficult. They're going to introduce different mechanics to you, so it's going to broaden your experience of how to do more than just tank and spank a boss. So you're going to have to like actually pay attention, be more versatile, be more prepared for certain mechanics, and manage yourself better as well as the other people in your party. And it's going to challenge you. And if you want to get into raiding and you want to start raiding with people who are doing Mythic raiding in particular, everybody in that group has to be prepared. Everybody in that group has to be willing to take on a challenge. And so if you want to raid with those kinds of people, then you got to prepare yourself to be in that mindset. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is to get involved in those Mythic Plus dungeons.
I have not done a Mythic yet, because I have no idea how to get into one. Like, I open my LFG and the Mythic just says 0 keystone or whatever, you know. So do I have to get into, as a new player, do I have to get into a guild or a group with someone who already has a key to start one? Or what's the gating factor here?
The gating factor is you just have to complete a Mythic dungeon. That's it. So once you complete a Mythic dungeon, you will get a keystone at the end of it when you kill the final boss, and then you can use that keystone when you enter a new dungeon. There's this little pedestal right at the start when you enter the instance, and then you put that keystone on the pedestal, and that will begin the level that keystone will pitch you up against.
Cool. I mean, incrementally challenging dungeons in terms of the fight mechanics and stuff like that is a great way for MMOs to keep players progressing at endgame to better themselves at each tier or each level or whatever. So this is really smart on Blizzard's front. To get geared for Mythic, not the plus one, just the normal Mythic, would you say new players have to start by, first of all, getting to know the dungeons at the moment? So just run them on normal first just to get a feel for it. And then start doing the heroic versions and then jump to Mythic, or can they straight away go into Mythic?
You'll have a difficult time doing Mythic. I mean, the dungeons are not as I guess demanding in terms of the item level. It's really hard to say because I've played every expansion, by progressing straight from normal to heroic to mythic,
Right.
not as a new player at the end of an expansion trying to go into mythic. So everyone that I played with at the time was doing they were the exact same low item level that I was. So I mean, I do recommend walking up the ladder, so to speak, especially if you're a new player, and that really goes for any game. It's like if you want to jump straight into the challenging stuff, the game has already built-in features to walk you up to that level. So if you do normal and it's too easy, then great. Now you know it's too easy and you're ready for the next level. I mean, there's really no harm in walking up the ladder like that, making sure you're prepared. Definitely be familiar with the dungeons because, man, those affixes and the higher tiers of those Mythic Plus keys, those bosses that were one-shot easy, you didn't have to think about the mechanics on Heroic or even regular Mythic, they are going to kick your butt at 12 or 15 or 18, the one that you're doing. You really start to realize how difficult some of these mechanics truly are when they've been scaled that high. So,
what's the highest level of Mythic right now for dungeons?
I think it's basically unlimited. The highest I know of that's been completed was like a 32.
Whoa.
By some of the
32.
really competitive people out there.
And these are what sorry, go ahead.
The highest I've done is 19, I think.
Ooh, nice. And these are what the Blizzard Mythic Dungeon esport tournaments are all about. They're, which group can finish, the level fastest or whatever. So
yeah, the
that's pretty interesting.
Mythic Invitational, Mythic Dungeon Invitational. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. And I assume the raids are obviously work the same way. They're harder with the affixes for the different raids as well. That's some challenging endgame content for new players if you want it. Anything to add, Arf, about getting into Mythic?
Oh yeah, well, just in group play in general, in terms of what Kat's saying was about, it's about challenging yourself. So what you gotta have to, if you're just hit the max level right out of the gates, you have a choice basically. What do you like to do? Do you like to DPS? You like to be in the back or in the front, melee or range, and just whack away? Or do you want to help the group by healing the group, by keeping everybody alive? Or do you want to be the tank of the group and take a brunt of the damage for the group and make sure that no other mobs are attacking the rest of your teammates? So I think it comes to the fundamental core of that, of what you want to do, and then you build up on that. And then you get experience by practicing, and it really helps, obviously, if you're in a guild. You're there for a goal. So you're building up to a goal of completing the content, and the content is just going to get harder and harder. And from what Kat was saying, once you get higher, like, Mythic, like, +5, that wasn't so bad, guys. Only one death, and then you get into like 12 and 18, and the affixes start ranking up, and you got like Volcanic and Tyrannical and Skittish, and things just, wow, that was difficult. It really ramps up. But it really comes down to what you want to do. And it's really not just learning your class. Learning your class is very important. But like learning what your class does, all your cooldowns, especially as both tank and healer, because they have like certain responsibilities of using like either damage mitigators or really big heals to keep the group alive, to get through a specific encounter, or to get through a specific mechanic. And it is so difficult to what we call not to tunnel vision, where you're just like so focused on one thing and you're not seeing anything that's coming around. Like a big like purple like sphere is about to hit you, but then you're just so focused on the boss that it hit you, and then now you're dead. So that's where the challenge comes. Is can you? It's really a lot about multitasking. Are you going to be able to multitask? Are you going to be able to like hit your rotation, fluidly while you're like moving around? Because certain healers, it's hard for them to heal and move. A lot of healers, coming from my experience as a healer, you need to stand still and heal people, and that's very difficult when you're in a very mobile fight.
Just cutting in here, just real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there a healing class that's mobile that you can cast heals as you move around? Is there a class for that?
Yeah, Druids do pretty good about that. Okay. They're heal over time. But yeah, that's what I would say is... Oh, the Mist Weavers, yes, that's my main healing class on Horde side. So yeah, there are many ways that healers, tanks, and DPS can do their roles very well in a group setting, especially in the harder fights.
All right. Okay. Quick question for me. LFR. Do you guys use the LFR a lot?
Never.
Never?
We were just talking about this earlier.
So, I mean, for background, all of my raid experience has been with guilds, so
Right.
obviously organized groups. It is extremely hard for me to tolerate pug groups, especially when it's supposed to be the easiest version of the raid,
Yep.
and we're wiping.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, it's horrifying. I can't stand it. I personally don't do it at all. I strictly raid either in organized pugs, be it looking for group for like the normal heroic or mythic content, or my guild. So
Right.
less headaches that way.
my lead up to it, my lead up to the LFR question was from a new player perspective, like because I'm in a guild that when I'm on, they're not really on. And because I'm so new, I don't think anybody would pick me to go on a raid with them in terms of an organized group at this point. So as a new player, I was looking into how do I get this one wing done, because for the story, or one of the story quests, like I said very early on in this video, was giving players a free legendary ring for killing Argus, the on the last raid tier of the Entor's Burning Throne, I think it was. So I did not know how I was going to get it. Then I just thought, you know what, since I've unlocked the requirement to use the LFR, I'm just going to try the LFR, knowing full well what this means, because it is a pug looking for a raid, which I do appreciate on one hand, because not a lot of games that have raids have LFRs. A lot of people, or a lot of games, would pick up or plug that group in World Chat or whatever. WoW doesn't do that. It just has the LFR. You can just queue, get into a raid, which could already be done with the first boss, and then you just go kill the rest of the raid boss or whatever. So I did not know what to expect. I did know it was going to be very easy in comparison to what the hardest tier is, because it is catering to the new people, or to the soloers or the casual players, just to get a feel for what the raid was. I thought I was going to have a really shit experience, I'm not gonna lie, because knowing what I know about the WoW's pugging community somewhat, and having pug raid experience from games like Lotro and a couple of other MMOs that I play, I was not expecting to have a good time, but that in fact turned out to be the opposite, because the LFR turned out to be pretty fun. I was very relaxed learning the raid mechanics in a casual setting. I died a couple of times and nobody gave a shit, because it was just like, okay, so now you learned that and you can get back into the fight. I also had the DBM mod that helped with that, so LFR wasn't so bad, but I can understand why you guys may not, you know, get into that. But for new players, if you don't have a guild, or you're having a hard time trying to find a community to start with, it's okay to go with the LFR once in a while, but your experience will be different from mine, I can guarantee you that. Arv, anything to add about LFR, if you used it?
Yeah. I was actually talking to Kat about this earlier. I can go into an hour-long discussion about this, but we don't have an hour, so
bad
I'm just going to keep it... No, not necessarily bad, but just
Okay.
like the intricacies of how we have LFR, normal, heroic, and mythic, the tiers of our rating, right?
Yep.
I'll just say this. LFR is very hit and miss. Like in your example you just said, you had a great time, right? Good.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when you know, this is like a lot of people from all different servers converging into one raid, right?
Mm.
So you'll have negative experiences coupled with the positive ones. So I would say if you really need to knock out a wing for a quest or whatever, and it doesn't require any higher difficulty, yeah, LFR would be the way to go. Just go in there expecting that on any kind of raid, really, that things aren't going to go as planned, and yes, wipes do happen. So hit and miss is what I would say about LFRs.
I'm just happy it has that tool, because not a lot of games will give people like me now with 3 jobs and hardly any time to play a catch-up sort of mechanic just to get a raid wing done for the story, to watch a cutscene or something like that. I appreciate that. I honestly do. Or else I would have never gotten even one raid experience down in WoW without having to spend hours and hours and hours on it. So, you know, if you're like me, then you may appreciate the LFR.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I don't bash the system at all. It is fantastic. I I wish the system was in Guild Wars right now, honestly, with their raids too.
I know.
Because it is a fantastic way to get started, and it's absolutely hit or miss. The vast majority of the bosses in LFR are extremely easy, and they're very tank and spake. They don't require an awful lot of skill or knowledge in the mechanics in order to do them. For some reason, Blizzard does not apply that philosophy to all of the bosses. The ones that they choose to add mechanics to, those are the ones where you have probably more bad experiences than good, because people are used to tank and spake, and all of a sudden Blizzard is like, oh, we're going to throw a mechanic into this LFR boss that we don't do for any of the others, and suddenly people are constantly wiping.
Which boss and which raid is that?
Kill Jaden.
Kill Jaden.
Kill Jaden. And Coven.
They put up... And Coven. They put full mechanics for them, pretty much, in LFR. It's like, really? Why would you do that? This is supposed to technically be a tank and spec. Dude, you don't want to be in any of those LFR groups. I'm telling you.
I'll keep a lookout for that. I still have a few wins to get done, but I'll keep a lookout for that. Which is really...
It's a great...
Yeah, go ahead.
It's a great tool. I was just gonna say, it's a great tool, like Kat was saying. If she wanted it in Guild Wars, you know, it would tell you that it's a great tool to use.
I mean, with Guild Wars, well, it's a WoW video, but like Guild Wars, you know, their end game kind of, you got the raids, and then you've got the fractals as well. But fractals are easy to get a group for, because you can just chill around Lion's Arch and, you know, ask or use the LFG and see which squad and which parties are up, or, you know, that kind of thing. But for raids, like, I've not done any Guild Wars 2 raid yet at the moment, so I mean, an LFR in that regard would be pretty fun. But they have dedicated sections in Guild Wars 2's LFG tool, but I don't really see people queuing for it. But I think it's a guild feature. I think guilds organize for that more than pugs do, so that'll be an interesting thing. And yeah, I guess for some comical background thing here, Kat was actually the one who got me into Guild Wars 2 many years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, so back to WoW endgame here. Battle for Azeroth is... I am dedicating a lot of time to playing WoW with the new expansion, obviously, and getting into the endgame. And because I think Legion's too late for me. By the time BFA cycle is over, I think a lot of players can go back and probably 5-man in one of the old raids or whatever, like you can do for the legacy raids. I think this is what they're calling it now, where you can go back and solo old raids for gear or for cosmetics and transmog or whatever. So I think Legion is going to be that in the future. I mean, I think Draenor still, you can't solo Draenor the way you solo like other expansion raids, right? It's still pretty difficult, especially now with the squish.
Yeah, in my experience, because I have gone back to legacy raids to get transmogs and stuff, the expansion previous to the one you're playing is usually doable with like a 3 to 4-man group. As far as like farming transmogs, it's pretty difficult to solo, if not impossible. It might be possible to do it at the very back end of Legion to do Draenor, but not anymore with the stat squish. Yeah. But before, because our item level was so high and our artifact weapons were so overpowered, I think it was possible. But the rule of thumb, from my experience, is that previous expansion to the one you're currently playing is usually not soloable. Everything before that can be soloed, though.
Awesome. And yeah, I would like to thank a few of the viewers who gave me that tip to go and solo this. I forgot what the name of that raid was, but it got me the Twilight Drake flying mount, so I soloed that raid and got it. So
nice.
There's a lot of raids. Yeah, Blackwing Lair. There's a lot of raids that do this. So for new players wondering, how come I don't have a title now that I'm endgame? What do I have to do to get cool cosmetic stuff? You guys, like me, have missed 14 years worth of content and stuff. So I would suggest there's lots of guides out there, you know, Wowhead and other communities and content creators that, you know, can give you the information to go back and grab what you want, you know, for Pride or for, you know, just cosmetics, or to go do that if you're looking for something other things to chase in WoW besides just grinding for rep or something like that. You know, WoW offers that as well. So yeah, really looking forward to endgame in BFA. Like I said, Legion's too late for me now. I don't know. Hopefully we get a community up. We get a lot of people in there. And if I can sync my time zone to you guys when you guys play, which will be in the morning for me. Then we can have some fun.
We'll do Mythic Plus together.
Yeah, the first week of Legion, I have already submitted. Well, I don't really get annual leaves or whatever because I'm a freelance writer, but I'm writing everything in advance so that the first week of BFA, I'm just gonna be playing all day. So, you know, if we get to quest together, and I especially want to do things like the Island Expedition together because that's like a 3-man. And that sounds really fun, especially because you may come up against Horde or Alliance AI, not players, AI, and the way they function is pretty smart. You know, they're programmed to do things that you wouldn't expect an AI to do, more like enemy real players. So I'm really looking forward to that, and other stuff as well. I mean, the Warfronts, I think it was 20-player co-op sounds right up my alley. I like big fights like that, especially when it involves, you know, a little bit of siege and strategy, and yeah, there's a whole bunch of things with BFA coming that I'm actually pretty excited for. So can't wait.
Yeah, me too. For the Alliance, let's do this.
For the Alliance.
And the Horde.
In the Horde.
I need. I want to have a Horde character. I probably will boost another one because I need to get the Horde allied races. I need a 110, right, on the Horde side. Yeah, so I'm probably gonna have to boost one. And then at least I can talk about Horde side stuff because right now I'm all Alliance bias. That's all it is. It's just like unfortunate because people on my channel be like, how come you don't talk about the Horde? I'm like, because I don't have the Horde. It's not like I don't like the Horde. I just don't have the time to make a Horde character. So
I think this will be great with the communities. We'll set up, you know, we'll be able to like play with like-minded people. So you're not just gonna rely on LFR or pugs, because you're never gonna see those people from LFR really ever again. Same thing with some of the pugs, you know.
Yeah,
so you'll be able to group up with people, you know.
Hopefully I don't need to block anybody in my future LFR runs, but you know, things happen. Community is really unexpected. So far, I mean, I'm playing on the Sourfang PV Oceanic server, and you know, when you do LFR or when you're used to looking for group tool, it's going to phase in people from other servers. And I just want to talk about that real quick. The technology that Blizzard has with this thing is awesome. It's awesome. Like I said, there are other games that also do this with mega server attack and stuff, but the way Blizzard seamlessly phases in people across servers to get to the content that you're in, for example, invasions or, you know, bosses or whatever, it's actually super awesome, especially if I'm on playing at a time where there's no one around in Oceanic and it just zones in people from the US. Fantastic. Absolutely helps, especially now I'm trying to catch up doing all the content, like invasion stuff. Absolutely brilliant. I cannot give that system enough credit because I just love how seamless that is. There's no loading in between, like there's no loading screen or whatever. It just takes like 10 seconds and boop, you're in the invasion point with other players around from other servers. That's just awesome. Okay, I guess we are at the tail end, and I literally have this section chill talk leading to close. So chill talk, guys. Anything you guys want to say about Warcraft, about new players, or to new players, or anything you want to say in general, or just, you know, your hopes and your dreams about BFA, or, you know, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think I've played an awful lot of MMOs the past 10 years, and there's two that I keep coming back to. And I've thought a lot about why I keep coming back to Guild Wars and World of Warcraft. And I think it's because I've had so many experiences with other games where they had a lot of hype, they had a lot of promise, and the initial experience was good because of the amount of people that were playing and friends that were playing it with you. And then they just kind of died off, you know, within the first 2 to 6 months of launch. And a lot of that is they're launched with issues or without the in-game content or the quality of life or the quality assurance of what they actually put out. World of Warcraft is one of those games where Blizzard has created a product that is reliably high quality no matter what they do. This is a game that, as a new player, if you're looking for something to play long term, that you know that everything, every expansion, all the content is guaranteed to be backed, high quality, passionate by the developers that are creating it, and it has a reputation for being a fantastic MMO. And they have continuously evolved to keep up with the times and the stuff that other games have been introducing to the market. And I think that's something that should be recognized. I think it's a great reason to play World of Warcraft, because it is reliable. It's something that you can play and you know it's going to be great. You just know it is. So that's what I would say to new players is if you're really tired of picking up these games and they're being disappointed by them, this is the kind of game that shouldn't be disappointing you over and over and over again. So
awesome. Well put. I've got nothing to add to that. I mean, that's pretty well put.
It was really well put. I don't know how I'm gonna top that.
I could try. A lot of people have been asking me about, hey, you know, you review all these games, but what's your best or what's your top, or, you know, for me it's hard to quantify these things because it comes down to a lot of things that Kat said, you know, mechanics, systems, tech, content, the experience from start to finish. But, you know, I generally always tell people there's 3 games in my rotation that I keep going back to, similar to a lot of these folks. Guild Wars 2 is in there, Elder Scrolls Online as well, and then there's World of Warcraft. So new players, if you have to ask what games I would recommend off the bat, if you had to have only one subscription game, I would say World of Warcraft over stuff like maybe Final Fantasy. Because Final Fantasy, even though it is a fantastic game in many regards with the story and everything, it is a niche. You have to accept that because it is a franchise that's catering to first and foremost Final Fantasy players and MMO players after. World of Warcraft, I would say go with that as your only sub game. And then if you had to pick 2 buy-to-play games where you can keep coming back over and over whenever there's new content or whatever, I would say go with Guild Wars first, because with Guild Wars, you literally pick and choose what you do and how you enjoy the game, and when you come back, you fit right into the end game or the current content so seamlessly that it feels like you never really left. With Elder Scrolls Online, it's all about the story and how invested are you into your class and your character and where the story is at, and you will feel that with each growing DLC or chapter, the story keeps getting better and better, and that's a testament to how much the game's grown since flopping at launch. So those are the 2 buy-to-play games I would highly recommend. So if you ask me what top 3 games I would recommend to you, they're right there. World of Warcraft, ESO, Guild Wars 2. Now stop asking me questions like that.
In that order?
Well, in any order. Like I said, if you have the money, you can only get a sub game. I would say WoW, buy-to-play. That's your choices. ESO, Guild Wars 2, top. Those are the top 3 MMOs out right now.
For me, just piggybacking off what you guys were saying, I'm gonna keep it or I'm gonna keep it like it's an MMO RPG, so that stands for Massive Multiplayer Online Role-Playing Game, and it would not be an MMO RPG if it wasn't for the people that you were playing with. I've played with these 2, not just in World of Warcraft, but Lord of the Rings Online, where we all met each other, and that's what keeps me coming back and keep me from playing. If I didn't have the friends that I played with now, and you know, people do come and go as you go through these games, but if I didn't have these guys here right now, you two, I wouldn't be playing World of Warcraft, or the people in my guild that I'm in now. This is what makes it so much fun. I mean, you could solo it, you could. There's nothing that would prevent you from playing the story or running pugs, you know, we were saying before, but if it wasn't for the people that log on and you're on Discord or whichever voice you want to use, and just be like, hey guys, what are you guys up to? What do you guys want to do? Oh, let's do this and let's do that. Oh, I need help because that mob just killed me. Okay, let's go get him. That kind of feeling and triumphant, being triumphant over like dungeons or even raids, like that's the best feeling in the world. So that's what I would definitely recommend. People do is, oh, look at that, we have this thing called communities. Perfect. We'll use that to group up with friends. So that's what makes the World of Warcraft really worth playing.
It's the best. The guild I'm in right now, 11 of us went to BlizzCon last year for 2017.
Oh.
So all of us got to meet each other. We all went out for drinks. We all enjoyed the convention together. And these are the people that I raid with 2 times a week, and I'd never met them in real life before. And it's amazing. Like this is people that I never would have met otherwise, and I enjoy hanging out with them, and it makes me want to keep playing WoW. It makes me want to keep raiding. It makes me want to keep doing Mythic raiding because I'm doing it with these people. You know, it's such a huge part of MMORPGs, and if you can find that connection with any game, you're gonna love it.
Agreed. Totally agree. BlizzCon, huh? Well, first of all, I need my visa to visit the States. And then I need about $10,000, my currency, for the flight ticket and accommodation. But yeah, last year's BlizzCon, I've been watching, you know, when they released the BFA trailer, I've been watching the reactions. It gave me goosebumps. Like, it wouldn't have given me goosebumps like in January because I was new to WoW, but now understanding so much more about the game, and, you know, when you see Sylvanas say, "For the Horde," and then, you know, and Anduin did his thing. What did Tom say? He had a great macro or something like that. That was funny.
He had the power word barrier and mass resurrection macro that none of us ever have.
And after he did that, you know, and then he goes, you know, stand as one for the Alliance, and then I got goosebumps both times, and I'm like watching the reaction of people at BlizzCon, watching that for the first time. I was like, wow, I would love to be a part of that. I really would, and I can understand why so many players are so invested in that, where a simple trailer, where characters are saying 2 words that are so iconic over 14 years, it just gives you a buzz. You know, that's
it was
really
incredible.
Awesome.
I was in the back of that stadium or the convention center. I was all the way in the back with everybody in my guild, and we were all watching that launch trailer. I mean, there was tangible energy in that entire room. It was just like there's like 1,000 people in there. It was insane. It was so cool. I've never experienced that before. It was great.
That's awesome. I'm so jealous now. I want to get a feel for being in there, you know, because there's no other feeling than being around people who, equal to you, care about the world of the game as much as you do. And when something like that happens and you all experience it together, it must have been awesome.
Yeah, definitely it was.
You better get that visa soon, man, so you can, you know, get to the next one. Just saying. Just saying.
I'll do 2019 next year's, because next year's when they're probably going to announce the next expansion for 2020, judging by how they do things, right? So they announced BFA 17, and we're getting it this year, and then 19 will be the next one, and I hope so. I think. Okay, anything else you guys want to chat about? We've just passed the 2-hour mark, which is great.
Oh, wow.
Because, you know, we love talking, and we love talking about games, especially with these guys, as Arp said. You know, we've known each other for quite some time now, since the Lord of the Rings Online. With Jusmel, we've got great memories of we were all in the same raiding alliance, and PvP as well. We've all done those stuff together, so it's always nice when we get to you know, catch up and talk about other stuff that we're doing in terms of games and whatever. So yeah, I just want to say I appreciate you guys being on here, spending the time to talk about Warcraft, World of Warcraft. This has been absolutely fun, and as usual, I love doing these things, so I just want to say thanks for being on, you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is very fun.
And it's obviously not going to be the last, because on July the 24th, as you guys know, we're going to get the quest lines leading up into BFA, the Burning of Teldrassil, and of course the Lordran one. So I will be doing that. All of us will be doing it, in fact, and then I guess we can convene at a later date and talk about the final stuff of 8.0 before the expansion launches, and then when BFA goes live, we'll all be playing it heavily. I'll try and stream when I can, both on YouTube and on Twitch, and I'll get all the guys that you've heard on these videos, from Kat to Arba, and Tom as well, and we'll all try to get together and do something live. That'll be pretty fun. And then after BFA, there's obviously going to be a review for the expansion, so all that good stuff coming in the next month or so. So stay tuned, everybody. And with that, I guess we'll wrap up this roundtable discussion. This has been absolutely fun. If people want to, you know, talk to you guys or ask you guys questions, get some advice from you guys, where can they find you, your character name, server, and all this stuff, We'll start with Cat.
Cat Scratcher on Storm Rage.
Awesome. And Arv.
Arvel on Corona.
Awesome. And I will... Well, you can just post a comment and I'll get back to you. I'm grinding in game right now in Argus. You don't want to bother me because I'm in a bad mood most of the time. I'll just have Spotify on.
If people wanted to contact us too, I guess they can post here on your Discord too. They're on your Discord, right?
Yep. Link to the Discord will be in the bottom of the video description there. You can just come in, and once we've created our community, our WoW community, I'll post that up there as well, because in my Discord you'll see links to join the ESO guild and the Guild Wars 2 guild, and now we'll have a WoW community as well. So that...
Can I just add one more thing, Adrian?
Sure.
Just really quick, since this has been going on for a while, hey, you could put this, like, you know, roundtable discussion in the background while you guys are, like, gathering ore and herbs and stuff, and listen to us while you make your money. How about that?
Roundtable discussions are things that I used to listen to while I was grinding or just PvE leveling and stuff like that. I started off MMOs listening to other, you know, podcasters or whatever. So now that I'm doing it, you know, that's a good point. You know, you guys, if you need something to listen to in the background or even your daily jog, or, you know, just load it up, download the MP3 if you want to, and yeah. We'll keep you entertained, I hope, and informed, especially for the
I hope so.
Yeah. All right, guys. With that, from all of us here, Kat and Arv and myself, again, thank you all so much for sitting through this 2-hour roundtable discussion. If you have any questions at all, feel free to post comments. Or if you guys want to, you know, go along with the quick fire and answer the questions yourself, or do you have a different opinion to what we've already talked about, from the grinds to getting to end game to what you like or dislike about, you know, the garrison or the glass hall system or stuff like that. Anything at all, feel free to share that in the comment section below. And for those of you new watching, well, hit the like button for more MMO videos, and feel free to subscribe to the channel for more MMO content. I do reviews, live streams, discussion videos, all that good stuff. So, once again, I'm Adrian, and I thank you for watching. Roses are red, violets are blue. If you want to watch more videos, click on these cards. Anyone would do. And if you want to watch more videos, subscribe to the channel with the button down here. I know you want to.